afternoon. We'll go ahead and get started with our first NTT IndyCar Series 3 availability for the day. I'd like to welcome to the podium drivers from Ed Carpenter Racing. On my far right, Spencer Pigot, next to him, Ed Jones. Welcome, gentlemen. Start out talking a little bit, maybe with the first practice session this morning. Spencer, I believe you were 17th on the time sheet. Talk us through your session, how things went.
Yeah, well, first off, it's great to be back in Long Beach. It's a place that I really enjoy driving. I think pretty much everyone feels the same way. But yeah, this morning was okay. I think, we made a few changes throughout the session. We have a pretty good idea of where we need to get better and how we're going to do that. So, obviously not super high up there, but we, not really concerned too much yet. We're all pretty confident in the team that we can make the changes we need to make for this afternoon and be a lot higher up.
Ed, same question for you. You're 23rd, so I'm sure you want to do better than that if you can go through your session.
Yeah, I think last time I was in this room, it just finished third, so being down there last probably isn't the nicest way to be back. But, it's kind of been the same story all season so far. We're trying to fix the issue with the car, and it's been the same problem everywhere. And to fix that, we're just compromising other places as well. So it's very tough, but keep working, try and find a solution. And it's one of my favourite tracks. So I'm sure once we work things out, and as long as we have a good race car, we can have a good race on Sunday.
I was just going to lead into that. Your two races here previously finished 3rd and 6th. You won the race, the Indy Lights race here in 2015, when you guys finished 1-2. So what is it about this circuit that adapts to your style, or why do you like it so much?
Yeah, I think it's not a track that I've necessarily qualified my best on, but in the races, I've been able to manage the cars quite well with tire degradation and just how this race plays out. There's times where you can overtake, and quite a few opportunities throughout the race, and we've just always been there at the end. So, like I said, it's one of my favourite. That atmosphere is always great here when we come to Sunday, and hopefully we can qualify a bit better than in the past and be working for another top finish.
As Spencer said, you finished 2nd in the Lights race here a few years ago. I believe your best IndyCar finish is 8th a couple of years ago. What is it about this track that you like?
Well, I think it's a pretty unique street course. I mean, obviously it's fairly bumpy in places, but it's got a lot of really tight technical sections. So it's always changing. The last sector it's all kind of one long corner. If you mess up one area, definitely that plays a big effect on the rest of the section. So it really rewards being very precise and accurate with the car, and having a car that can consistently work and do different things around the lap. So I think it's a challenge for the drivers and the engineers alike, which to me is exciting and a lot of fun.
One more question I'll ask for both of you, then we'll open up for questions to the media. In general, obviously the first season the two of you are working together as teammates. How would you guys both say the season's gone, and how's it going working together?
Yeah, it's been great so far. Obviously, I've raced against Ed for a while now, back in Indy Lights, so we've known each other but never worked together. And I think it's been really good so far. More often than not, we are kind of looking for the same things out of the car, which is nice to be able to work together in one direction. And as far as the season goes, it's been a little frustrating at times. We seem to have had some good finishes going, especially the last couple of weekends, and then pit lane seems to be a big struggle for us right now, whether it's getting caught up in someone else's mess or kind of causing our own mess. So that's kind of been detrimental to our races, and hopefully from here on out we can just have nice smooth races with no issues, and really just put a nice clean string of races together.
Yeah, as Spencer said, we've raced together for quite a while, so it's good to be racing together for a change. I think it's been tough so far. Good work with Spencer, but I think the consistency between the two cars has really not been there. So it's been a bit confusing in certain ways with setups, but I'm sure as the season progresses we'll start to figure that out and be able to make things work together.
Let's go ahead and open it up for questions. Go ahead and shut out the question, then I'm going to have to repeat it so our transcription is here as well far at the end there.
So how close together are your setups? Did you start with an identical setup for P1 and change it during the session? or did you start with two different setups
So-
between the teammates?
Okay, so I can repeat for the transcriptions. How close are your setups going in, and then did you change as the session went on?
Yeah, so every other race we've kind of started exactly the same. But you know, for a few of them it's been completely different feedback when we get after FP1. So we've had to change, which is confused things a bit. So here we started slightly different, but still pretty close. I guess we'll just whatever each of us, we'll test out different items, and if one of us prefers that or needs the same setting to improve the car, then we'll go like that.
Mark?
The Hondas appeared to have an advantage, at least so far, and I guess the Barbara asked for the same thing, right? Are they beating you guys off the corners and low end torque, or what's going on there with the Chevy so far?
Sorry. Honda appear to have an advantage. Where might Honda have an advantage over the Chevrolets this weekend, and what are you guys doing to counteract that?
Yeah, I don't know if I 100% agree with that. I think if you look at the season on the whole, Chevy's been on pole twice. Last weekend in Barber, I actually had the fastest lap of the whole qualifying session. Obviously, it wasn't in round 3, but the pace was very encouraging and very good. So, I think it's probably closer than it probably appears. Sometimes the sessions are a little heavy at the top end with one manufacturer or the other, but I think there's a lot of different reasons and things that go into that. But as far as I'm concerned, I think Chevrolet's done a really good job of the winter, and we've come pretty much with an improvement in all areas. So I think that we've got the package we need to win races.
No, I think the same thing. If you look at last year, I guess Chevy struggled a bit more on the street courses, but if you looked at St. Pete, they seem to be a bit stronger than Honda even. So again, it was just FP1, so it's hard to tell from there. I think once we get into qualifying, that's only the first time each weekend where you really know where everyone's at, and I think they made big strides from last year, and should be strong once it comes to qualifying time.
Good question. Chris?
There's a lot of rubber builds up in the last sector from all the drifting that took place here over the last couple of weeks. Has that been a benefit to y'all getting through the last sector, or has that not been able to be used by y'all?
Was the question about how the different rubbers affecting getting around?
Last sector, yeah.
In the last sector?
Yeah, for me, I thought it was incredibly slippery the last couple corners. I know that the drifters supposedly lay down a lot of rubber. You can see on the track, but I thought turns 10 and 11 were really low grip, really slick, really challenging. So I think that'll improve as the weekend goes on and we get some more kind of normal rubber laid down. I don't know if it was from the IMSA series or if it was from the drifters, but I thought that that last sector was pretty tricky.
Yeah, I think every year we come here, it's similar to that. You have the drifters rubber down. I don't think it was actually as bad as it's been in some other years. I remember 2 years ago there was huge chunks of rubber down. But for sure, FP1 and maybe even FP2 you feel it a bit, but as the IndyCar rubber goes down and even the IMSA one, it actually helps us out a bit in that section.
Patrick?
Is there a particular aspect of the car that you're working on? I mean, under braking, is it under slow corners, fast corners? Is there anything in particular you guys feel like you're chasing?
Are we good to answer that? Or
Yeah, I'll get a microphone. Go ahead. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I think based on FP1, it's for me kind of some compliance with the car. Over the bumps, it's a lot bumpier than St. Pete this place. So just trying to get the car to behave a little bit better over the bumps and not be upset quite as easily. And whether it's a slow or fast corner, that kind of a universal thing that we're trying to address.
Yeah, for me it's more just entry stability in all of the corners really. That's kind of been a struggle from everywhere we've gone this year. Of course, once you start fixing that too much, you start to compromise the slow speed. So it's something that's been challenging for us, but once we sort that out, it should be a lot better.
So Bruce, and then come up to Mary.
Spencer, how old were you when you left Pasadena to go to Florida?
Well, I left Pasadena to go to North Carolina, but I was 1, so
So you don't
I
really
don't-
have much recollection of this race?
Not from when I was one, no.
Yeah, but just the fact that your family, your father used to live here.
Yeah,
From here, how important is this?
No, it's a
whole
really,
event to you?
really cool race for us. My dad moved to LA from England in like 1980 or something, and you know this is the first race he ever took my mom to. So you know my dad's been to I don't know 20 or 30 of these races. So it's cool to have that kind of family ties, and you know it's a special event for my parents, and for me it's a race that I always was begging to go to ever since I was young. So you know to be here racing is really neat for me, and I know my parents are really excited every year when we get to come back as well.
Mary?
At Barber, there were 8 out of 10 races now that we've had there where the pole winner has gone on to win the race. But at this race, out of 36 events here with open wheel, only 5 times has the driver that's on pole won the race. So this seems to be a very unpredictable result here, and I was just wondering, I might not have talked about this yet, but it seemed like a 2-stop race is what drivers would want to do here. And at Barber, there was only 1 yellow, and it seemed that some drivers were on 2 stops, some were on 3, and it put everybody on the same strategy because of the length of that yellow. So what do you expect to have happen in the race on Sunday?
Yeah, I think Bourdais and I were probably the only 2 guys that were really trying a 2-stopper. I think here you'll see a lot more people doing 2 stops. First of all, I think the race is a little shorter. It's 85 laps versus 90, and you know I don't think fuel mileage is much of an issue. So that's probably the preferred strategy because you won't need to save a lot of fuel, and hopefully you save a pit stop. It's a long pit lane here as well, so that's what I assume most people try to do. But you know until we really get a good sense of what the Reds will do this afternoon, it's you know hard to say for sure or not. And then you know, there's always people trying new things and trying to get creative. But you know so far, based on last year, I would assume mainly a 2-stopper.
Yeah, I think it's you know it's a mixture. It depends a lot. Like you said, the yellows throw the races upside down sometimes, and it's been a bit. You can never predict like if a race is going to be colored or not. Like Barber in the practice sessions, there's a lot of yellows. Then you come to a race and there's only 1. In other races, there'll be no yellows in practice and lows in the race. So it's very hard to you know predict what's going to happen. I think this race is again one where you know there's quite a bit of opportunity. There's usually 1 or 2 yellows, and you just got to be there for those opportunities. And because you said, as you know, some people try the 2 stops and 3 stops. The guys in the 3 stops really have to push a lot harder to make that worth it, and then you know creates a bit more risk. And I think that's where you see the races change up quite a bit.
Last question from Mark.
Speaking of yellows, I know at COTA there was a big controversy with the yellow coming out and they closing the pits and the leaders got messed up from that. And then at Barber they seemed to keep the pits open until the leaders had pitted. Have they told you guys in the drivers' meeting that that's what they're going to do now? Or was that just a split decision that they decided to make it at Barber and that's not going to be the policy going forward?
From the way I understand it, it seems to be you know dependent on the circumstances. Obviously, at COTA, the crash was covered in pit entrance, so you know you couldn't really leave the pits open in that situation because there was a car, you know, and safety crew right there at pit entrance, and you know Barber was a little bit different with Graham stopped on the other side of the track, and you know obviously Max ended up kind of in the wall there at pit in, but I think it's you know whether or not race control deems it as a dangerous situation. If they can keep the pits open until everyone gets a chance to pit, I think they will. But if it can be more dangerous than it is, you know, if it's not worth the risk, then I think they'll close it right away. But there's no, you know, set in stone. As soon as there's a yellow, they're going to automatically close the pits right away. They might. Yeah.
All right, with that, gentlemen, wrap it up. Thank you very much. Best of luck the rest of the weekend.